You close the thing. I just completely forgot. I was going to close the...
Not having to do it.
I know, not having to muck about. But we're live. Hello, everybody, which is to say Tila at the moment. You might notice that the backdrop isn't here. It's right back here. Yes, that's because it's been a rough week or two, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do today. And I was like, I don't know, man. I just realized I just did not really have the energy to even make a decision, much less do anything. But I said I would stream something today, so I'm here. But to say partially that I'm not going to do Through the Looking Glass. Did the toaster arrive? My toaster broke, and Carolyn ordered a new one, and I think it just arrived. That's very exciting. That's the best thing that's happened all day.
It's the best thing that happened all week, really.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited to be able to toast bread without doing it in the oven and worrying about burning it. Anyway, yes, I've decided I'm just a little bit too stressed right now, and I didn't enjoy doing Alice in Wonderland as much, or Alice's Adventures in Wonderland as much as I thought I would, partially because I was just stressed. And I added some stress to it by doing the backdrop. I tried to do it big, do the stream more fancy, and that just ended up adding more stress to it, which is inevitable. But unfortunately, it added more stress, but it didn't add more viewers, which was my hope. So the stress was for naught. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to turn on the camera today and I'll read something. I've been flipping through this collection that Michelle sent me to find something short that I could read. So I was thinking either I could read Jabberwocky and maybe the section where Humpty Dumpty tries to define the words in Jabberwocky, which is maybe the best part. Or potentially I could read The Walrus and the Carpenter, that section, because those are both really fun and shorter than reading, the entire book. I confess some of the wind went out of my sails when I realized that Through the Looking Glass is actually longer than Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and I went, oh, I don't want to do to do it now. Yeah. I thought I wanted to, and then I was like, ugh, I don't really want to do it. It makes me sad because I was excited to do this series and at least do these two books, but I'm stressed, and so I'm just gonna put it off. Maybe I will. I'm not saying I won't ever do it in the future, but I'm definitely gonna take a break again. So sorry for people who've been enjoying this. You can enjoy my Halloween glass, which has bats on it. Mm. Bats. Fucking love Halloween.
Little batties.
Mm-hmm. Twinkle, twinkle, little bats. Anyway, so Tila, you're the only one talking. So Walrus or Jabberwocky. You said nice things about both of them, but that doesn't help me make a decision. Walrus and the Carpenter
is very standalone.
Yeah. The Walrus and the Carpenter is longer than Jabberwocky, but just the poem itself. It would be kind of fun to read the bit where Humpty Dumpty defines the words in Jabberwocky as well. So that would give two little segments to read.
That's true. That's right. I forgot that.
Oh, Tila says Walrus. Okay. So, oh yes, I forgot that this is Tweedle Dee and Tweedledum are the ones who tell the story.
Oh, really?
Of the Walrus and the Carpenter.
I was just trying to remember who recites it to Alice, because I know that they then explain it to her
Yeah.
afterward.
Yeah, I was thinking that Humpty Dumpty was the one who introduces Jabberwocky, but
Yeah.
it's like 2 chapters earlier. And then she meets Humpty Dumpty and he's explaining things. She goes, "Oh, can you explain the poem Jabberwocky?" And then he tries to define a bunch of the nonsense words that are in it. Anyway, but I forgot that one of my favorite made up words is in this section, which is contrary-wise. Let's see, what's a good... I'll just start at the beginning of the Tweedle Dee and Tweedledum chapter because that's where it starts. Anyway, maybe I'll do this whole chapter. We'll see how I feel. So yes, this is chapter 4 of Through the Looking Glass. Tweedledum and Tweedle Dee. And since he loved to start a chapter, 1 foot in the door, I will read just the last little bit of the previous page, which was, "She went on and on a long way, but wherever the road divided, there were sure to be 2 finger posts pointing the same way, one marked to Tweedledum's house and the other to the house of Tweedle Dee. I do believe," said Alice at last, "that they live in the same house. I wonder I never thought of that before. But I can't stay here long. I'll just call and say, 'How do you do?' and ask them the way out of the wood. If I could only get to the 8th square before it gets dark." So she wandered on, talking to herself as she went, till, on turning a sharp corner, she came upon 2 fat little men so suddenly that she could not help starting back. But in another moment she recovered herself, feeling sure that they must be... And then it gives the chapter heading, Tweedledum and Tweedle Dee. Like the chapter title is part of a sentence. He just flows right from one to the next.
That's funny.
So, chapter 4, Tweedledum and Tweedle Dee. They were standing under a tree, each with an arm round the other's neck. And Alice knew which was which in a moment, because one of them had Dum embroidered on his collar, and the other Dee. "I suppose they've each got Tweedle round the back of the collar," she said to herself. They stood so still that she quite forgot they were alive, and she was just looking round to see if the word Tweedle was written on the back of each collar, when she was startled by a voice coming from the one marked Dum. "If you think we're waxworks," he said, "you ought to pay, you know. Waxworks weren't made to be looked at for nothing nohow." "Contrariwise," added the one marked D, "if you think we're alive, you ought to speak." "I'm sure I'm very sorry," was all Alice could say, for the words of the old song kept ringing through her head like a ticking of a clock, and she could hardly help saying them out loud. Do you mind? I'm trying to read something.
Yeah, right.
Dogs across the street have something to say.
Big deal.
Tweedledum and Tweedle Dee agreed to have a battle, for Tweedledum said Tweedle Dee had spoiled his nice new rattle. Just then flew down a monstrous crow, as black as a tar barrel, which frightened both the heroes so they quite forgot their quarrel. Quarrel?
Quarrel.
Is quarrel pronounced more like quarrel, or is barrel pronounced more like quarrel? That's the real question. I don't know which, or maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I love reading a poem and realizing, these do not rhyme in my accent.
Yeah. In
That's
what accent do they rhyme? Are they supposed to sort of rhyme?
Yeah, it's a good question. Also, is that even an actual real song, or is this one of the things where she misremembers a real thing? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that particular one.
"I know what you're thinking about," said Tweedledum, "but it isn't so nohow." "Contrariwise," continued Tweedle Dee, "if it was so, it might be, and if it were so, it would be, but as it isn't, it ain't. That's logic." That's one of the best lines. "I was thinking," Alice said very politely, "which is the best way out of this wood? It's getting so dark. Would you tell me, please?" But the little men only looked at each other and grinned. Sorry, I just realized I didn't show you guys the illustration. Tweedledum and Tweedle Dee. That's logic. Sounds like the name of an NPR show.
It does.
Like a fun intellectual game show on NPR.
Yeah, exactly.
But the little men only looked at each other and grinned. They looked so exactly like a couple of great schoolboys that Alice couldn't help pointing her finger at Tweedledum and saying, "First boy." No, how? Tweedledum cried out briskly and shut his mouth up again with a snap. Next, boy, said Alice, passing on to Tweedle Dee, though she felt certain he would only shout contrariwise, and so he did. You've been wrong, cried Tweedledum. The first thing in a visit is to say, how'd you do, and shake hands. And here the two brothers gave each other a hug, and then they held out the two hands that were free to shake hands with her. Alice did not like shaking hands with either of them first, for fear of hurting the other one's feelings. So, as the best way out of the difficulty, she took hold of both hands at once. The next moment they were dancing round in a ring. This seemed quite natural, she remembered afterwards, and she was not even surprised to hear music playing. It seemed to come from the tree under which they were dancing, and it was done, as well as she could make it out, by the branches rubbing one against the other like fiddles and fiddlesticks. But it certainly was funny, Alice said afterwards, when she was telling her sister the history of all this, to find myself singing, Here We Go Round the Mulberry Bush. I don't know when I began it, but somehow I felt as if I'd been singing it a long, long time. Classic dream stuff.
Yes.
The other two dancers were fat and very soon out of breath. Rude. 4 times round is enough for one dance, Tweedledum panted out, and they left off dancing as suddenly as they had begun. The music stopped at the same moment. Yeah, Teal's laughing at the image of Alice just pointing and shouting "first boy." I presumably that's an English school system joke that I don't really know what it means.
I mean, I am vaguely familiar with like first boy or head boy or something.
Yeah, I've heard of like head boy, so I understand that use of the word boy, but I don't know exactly what first boy and next boy mean. So, some kind of ranking system.
Yes.
The Brits do love that sort of thing.
They do.
Bunch of unzoranic nonsense, if you ask me. Then they let go of Alice's hands and stood looking at her for a minute. There was a rather awkward pause, as Alice didn't know how to begin a conversation with people she had just been dancing with. Man, as someone who used to do a lot of social dancing, I feel that.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes it is weird. Like, well, we just had a very intimate moment.
Yes.
How are you?
Yeah. What is your name?
Oh, Tila says the kid with the highest grade is the first boy and sits at the front of the class.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and last boy is in the opposite corner because, of course, bad grades are cured by being farther away from the board. Yeah, that sounds like some British private school
and
bullshit.
Being shamed for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Tila just said, dancing is so intimate. I miss waltzing, and like, me too.
I have never waltzed.
I have a lot of feelings about waltzing.
I understand that the decline of civilization is due to the waltz, but that's about the extent.
Honestly, I think the decline is due to the fact that people don't waltz enough anymore. Quite frankly, waltzing is good. Waltzing is. It's been a very long time. I've waltzed within the last, maybe year, but I've not been led by a really good waltz lead in a very long time, and that is magic. I'm an all right waltz lead, but I'm not great. I've not been properly trained. Both the best and worst thing about going to a contra dance is the waltz, because there is a waltz, but then there's usually only one or two. It's very hard to get a good lead when there's only one or two in the whole night. I got into contra and I'm like, I'm really just here for the waltzing, and there's only one or two of them.
I've never done contra dancing.
Contra dancing is a good exercise, put it that way. All right. I mean, the fact that immediately I got into contra dancing and then found out that my very recent ex, A, was big into contra dancing, which I had known and forgotten, and B, was very keen to hang out with me and talk to me all the time so I could absolve him of guilt for dumping me in a very rude fashion, and I did not have the energy for such bullshit, so I just stopped contra dancing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel that.
It would never do to say, how do you do now, she said to herself. We seem to have got beyond that somehow. I hope you're not much tired, she said at last. No, how, and thank you very much for asking, said Tweedledum. So much obliged, added Tweedle Dee. You like poetry? Yes, pretty well. Some poetry, Alice said doubtfully. Would you tell me which road leads out of the wood? What shall I repeat to her, said Tweedle Dee, looking round at Good heavens, what is that? Oh, it's a milk truck. It's a milk truck.
Yes.
A very loud truck. Okay. What shall I repeat to her? Said Tweedle Dee, looking round at Tweedledum with great solemn eyes, and not noticing Alice's question. The Walrus and the Carpenter is the longest, Tweedledum replied, giving his brother an affectionate hug. Tweedle Dee began instantly. The sun was shining. Here Alice ventured to interrupt him. If it's very long, she said as politely as she could, would you please tell me first which road? Tweedle Dee smiled gently and began again. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. The sea was wet as wet could be. The sands were dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. The Walrus and the Carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see, such quantities of sand. If this were only cleared away, they said, it would be grand. There we have the Walrus and the Carpenter. It's rather dark. I wonder if that's like the originals of the illustrations are lost and something about the copies are just kind of muddled. It just looks like it's overly shaded. Anyway.
Possibly.
If 7 maids with 7 mops swept it for half a year, do you suppose, the Walrus said, that they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the Carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. Oh, Oysters, come and walk with us, the Walrus did beseech. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk, along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest Oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest Oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. There's them talking to these poor innocent oysters. But 4 young Oysters hurried up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd because, you know, they hadn't any feet. 4 other Oysters followed them, and yet another 4. And thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. The Walrus and the Carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock conveniently low. That is about the most syllables you could possibly say conveniently with.
Yes.
Pronounce all the bits. And all the little Oysters stood and waited in a row. The time has come, the Walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings. Classic. But wait a bit, the Oysters cried, before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath, and all of us are fat. Lewis Carroll had issues. No hurry, said the Carpenter. They thanked him much for that. A loaf of bread, the Walrus said, is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar, besides, are very good indeed. Now, if you're ready, Oysters dear, we can begin to feed. But not on us, the Oysters cried, turning a little blue. After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do. The night is fine, the Walrus said. Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you are very nice. The Carpenter said nothing but, cut us another slice. I wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice. It seems a shame, the Walrus said, to play them such a trick, after we'd brought them out so far and made them trot so quick. The Carpenter said nothing but, the butter's spread too thick. I weep for you, the Walrus said. I deeply sympathize. With sobs and tears he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. Oh, Oysters, said the Carpenter, you've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again? But answer came there none, and that was scarcely odd because they'd eaten every one. It's a bit dark.
Yes.
And there they are, having just finished their Very rude dinner. I like the walrus best, said Alice, because you see he was a little sorry for the poor oysters. Yes, Alice continues to be the worst.
Yes.
He ate more than the carpenter, though, said Tweedle Dee. You see, he held his handkerchief in front so the carpenter couldn't count how many he took, contrariwise. That was mean, Alice said indignantly. Oh, then I like the carpenter best, if he didn't eat so many as the walrus. But he ate as many as he could get, said Tweedledum. This was a puzzler. After a pause, Alice began, well, they were both very unpleasant characters. Here she checked herself in some alarm at hearing something that sounded to her like the puffing of a large steam engine in the wood near them, though she feared it was more likely to be a wild beast. Are there any lions or tigers about here? She asked timidly. It's only the Red King snoring, said Tweedle Dee. Come and look at him, the brothers cried, and they each took one of Alice's hands and led her up to where the king was sleeping. And this is where we just transition into a whole nother bit. So that is the end of the walrus and the carpenter part. Which is very fun. It's rather delightfully weird. I actually forgot how I thought I remembered it being more amusing. It's like, no, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, no, it's
just bad.
Yeah.
Anywho, I guess I could also read the Jabberwocky.
I mean, if you want
to. I'm just like passing through and seeing great lines like, I should like to buy an egg, please, she said timidly. How do you sell them? 5 farthing for 1, 2 for 2, the sheep replied. Then 2 are cheaper than 1, Alice replied in a surprised tone, taking out her purse. Only you must eat them both if you buy 2, said the sheep. Then I'll have 1, please, said Alice, as she put her money down on the counter, for she thought to herself, they mightn't be at all nice, you know. There's Humpty Dumpty. I must have already passed. Where's the actual Jabberwocky?
I thought it was at the very beginning, but I guess
must be. I'm having trouble turning the pages because I cut my thumb and I have an Iron Man Band-Aid on my thumb that's making it hard to.
Did you cut it on the cat food tin?
No, I was cleaning a frame that I have. A friend of mine made a beautiful piece of art of Pepper. Oh, I should show it to you guys. Where did I put it?
Don't know. Oh, is it here?
Oh, yes, it's right there. Thank you. So I couldn't see it.
Oh.
This beautiful collage of Pepper was made by my friend Juniper. Isn't it gorgeous?
That is wonderful. And he's wearing his jabbery scarf.
Mm-hmm. And I was trying to figure out a frame to put it in because it's on foam core. So I needed a frame that had a little more room. And I have one of those frames that's just like 2 pieces of glass in a frame with no back. So you can put something in it if you want to be able to like flip it around, or you just want to put something small in a frame and then have like transparent background. Anyway, it's cool. I was seeing if this would work in it, but it wouldn't. But while I was cleaning the pieces of glass, cut my thumb. Oh no! Oops. Anyway, I'll put a link to Juniper's Instagram. They are open for commissions if you are interested in acquiring such a lovely piece of collage work. Also, all the parts, all the orange parts that make up Pepper came from an article with photos of Mars.
Oh,
so the title of it, the piece is Sergeant Pepper on Mars.
Gotcha.
But you can kind of see some sandy bits and the tracks, like rover tracks,
nice.
Which is like perfect.
That is really good.
It's so gorgeous. I honestly, I'm so pleased with it. Yeah. I'm so happy. I was like,
you're famous, Pepper.
Yeah. June posted another commission they did, and I was like, oh, I wish I could commission. They were talking about doing pet commissions. They'd done a really cute one of somebody's dog. And I was like, oh, I wish I could afford to commission one of Pepper. And they were like, you give me so much art for free. The least I can do is make a portrait of your cat, which is very sweet because they like my music and they listen to my podcast and such. And I was like, that's fair. I have definitely given June much free art over the years. So
There you go.
anywho, where is so she walks through the looking glass, and yeah, she basically just stumbles right into the Jabberwocky. Oh, right, because it's written backwards. She has to read it in the looking glass.
Oh,
Hello,
okay.
Pepper. Hi.
Here he is in the fur.
Do you like it? What do you think? Is it a good likeness? I think it's quite charming. He doesn't know what to make of it.
He's like, what does it smell like?
It's you.
Is it made of chicken?
Yeah, he's not interested because I can't eat it.
Yes.
Just, I know you guys have to have a little Pepper cameo. Yes, I know. You're so terribly abused.
Yeah. His tummy's getting kind of big.
My goodness, your breath is terrible.
Yeah, that too.
He just looks at me like, you're the one who put my face next to your face, so touche.
Also, yours is nothing to write home about. Except he probably does.
When was the last time you brushed your teeth, sir?
He probably likes the way it smells, actually.
Yeah.
He likes my morning breath. He's always sniffing my face when I wake up.
I know. I bought like a cat toothbrush and cat toothpaste to try brushing his teeth when he started losing his teeth as he got older. And I looked up like, what can you do to prevent this? And they were like, you can brush your cat's teeth. And oh boy, he did not like that. I gave it up after a few tries because it was just like, I don't know that I'm actually getting anything done. I'm worried about hurting him with the toothbrush while he's struggling. So I gave it up.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, Pepper, we're going to read the Jabberwocky, okay? Is that all right with you? I'm just going to go ahead and read the poem, and then I'll skip ahead to the bit where Humpty Dumpty explains it, because that's the good part.
Nice.
Jabberwocky. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the frumious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the manxome foe he sought. So rested he by the Tumtum tree, and stood awhile in thought. And as in oofish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through, the vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went galumphing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O frabjous day, calloo, calais, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome raths outgrabe.
Indeed.
And there is the illustration.
I used to have that memorized.
Of the Jabberwock. Yeah, I'm curious if I hadn't just read it now, how much of it I could have gotten through before I forgot. Because I think I did. I also had it memorized at one point.
Definitely had the last bit all memorized.
Yeah.
At some point I had all of it memorized.
Yeah. I definitely knew at least the first stanza.
Yeah.
And the
I could quote the last 2 or 3 stanzas for a while. I don't know that I could anymore, but I had them.
I think I would have gotten as far as the frumious Bandersnatch, and then I would have forgotten the vorpal sword bit. But then I definitely knew the 1, 2, 1, 2, and through bit.
Yeah. The vorpal sword went snicker-snack.
Snicker-snack. What I love is that the two of the words in here, the nonsense words he made up, have become words in English, but meaning something clearly different from what he attempted, which is galumph, which I feel like when people say galumphing, they mean like clumsily lumbering around.
Yeah.
Which obviously is not what he meant. And chortle now means like kind of a pleased laugh.
Yes.
Like a kind of a hilarious chuckle. Yeah. There used to be this comedy site back in like the like 99, 2000, somewhere around there. And I wish I could remember its name, but it's escaping me at the moment. And he used to do these just funny articles on things. The guy who ran it. And he did one where he interpreted or just commented on Jabberwocky. And one of the things I remember him talking about was, he said, frumious is obviously a combination of furious and rum. And then I can't remember, there was something later. Oh, and then Bandersnatch, he made that mean a nun in some way. And he's like, just imagine an angry, boozed up nun charging at you. and I remember that he said, it's weird that chortle now means a sort of like silly laugh. He's like, imagine someone being like, oh, did you return successful? I'm so glad, my son. You weren't messily killed. Yuck, yuck. Like goofy. Anyway.
Yes.
I
was right. Frumious Bandersnatch is a band name.
Oh, it surely must.
At least one.
At least one band called themselves Frumious Bandersnatch.
I used to think, like, I would read that and think Frumious Bandersnatches, that would be a great band name.
Yeah, that's a winner for sure.
And for some reason,
it's really annoying not being able to turn things with my left hand, with my thumb. Okay, I could do it with my right hand. Let's say, yes, Humpty Dumpty. He's explaining a bunch of things, and then Alice says, "You seem very clever at explaining words, sir," said Alice. "Would you kindly tell me the meaning of the poem Jabberwocky?" "Let's hear it," said Humpty Dumpty. "I can't explain all the poems that were ever invented, and a good many that haven't been invented just yet." This sounded very hopeful, so Alice repeated the first verse. "'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome-raths outgrabe." "That's enough to begin with," Humpty Dumpty interrupted. "There are plenty of hard words there. Brillig means 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the time when you begin broiling things for dinner." That's all you get?
Yes.
"That'll do very well," said Alice. "And slithy?" "Well, slithy means lithe and slimy. Lithe is the same as active. You see, it's like a portmanteau. There are 2 meanings packed up into one word." And that is the invention of the word portmanteau right there, just in case you didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Because portmanteau is a type of suitcase. It's French word for suitcase. But in England, it means a particular type of suitcase, I think. So when he was saying that, he was saying, it's like a suitcase, 2 words packed up into one, like in a suitcase.
Right.
And it just came to mean a word that is 2 words combined together, which is funny because in a way, portmanteau is a portmanteau because port means carry and manteau is a type of cloak. Oh. So it's like a cloak carrier. It's more of a compound word, but it's almost a portmanteau, which is pretty great.
Yeah.
Also, the best portmanteau I've ever heard is French, which is the French word for mansplain, which is like, that's fine, right? But it's not great. Man doesn't rhyme with X or sound like X, the first part of explain, right? But in French, there's a slang term, which is mec, which means like guy or like an informal term for a male person.
Dude, bro.
Yeah, mec. Like just check out this mec over here. Kind of, I don't know how you would use it. I'm not French. But expliquer is explain in French. So mansplain is m'expliquer.
That sounds great.
Which is way better than mansplain. And it's just like, well done, France.
Yes.
They're really good at language. They have the language thing. Like being clever about language is a thing French people do. It's very good. French people in the sort of general sense, at least. "I see it now," Alice remarked thoughtfully. "And what are toves?" "Well, toves are something like badgers. There's something like lizards. And there's something like corkscrews." "They must be very curious-looking creatures." "They are that," said Humpty Dumpty. "Also, they make their nests under sundials. Also, they live on cheese." None of this is explained.
Yes.
I love that. Some of the other ones he like goes, "Oh, it's good broiling things for dinner," and slithy is a portmanteau, but like,
yeah,
none of the rest of it makes any sense.
Yeah.
And what's to gyre and to gimble? To gyre is to go round and round like a gyroscope. Oh, maybe so. It's gyre, not gyre. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Gyre.
Is that the invention of that word? I wonder.
Gyre?
Yeah, because Yeats was extremely fond of that word, and I had thought that he had, if not invented it, at
You think
least.
to gyre to mean to like go round and round?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, I mean, he might have come up with the word himself the same way.
That is true.
Using whatever root gyroscope comes from. I don't
Actually,
know
I
what
think
the
he
root
used it
is.
more as a noun than a verb.
Oh.
Turning and turning in the widening gyre.
Oh, yes. I don't know what he means by that. We'd have to look that up
Yeah.
to
Anyway,
know specifically if they
that
are
is
related.
interesting because I had been told that he made that word up, but this is obviously predates.
Yeah.
Yeats, so.
Fun fact, for many years, I could not, between Yeats and Keats, because they're spelled the same.
Almost.
With the last four letters are the same. I could never remember which one was pronounced how it looks, and the other one, which one was Eats and which one was Eights.
Yeah.
And I would have to think about it. I'm like, Yeats? Yeats? Kates? No, that doesn't sound right. And then I would remember. Yes, okay. Rather, when I'd see Keats, I'd always think Keats, and then I'd see Yeats and go, hold on.
I called him Yeats for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I assumed.
Oh, yeah, I did too. And then when I found out that it was Yeats, I continued to get it mixed up with Keats.
Yeah.
They're both poets.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they're contemporary or anything. I don't actually have a solid handle on the time periods for either of them.
Definitely not contemporaries.
Anywho, I always kind of lump them together in my head because of spelling.
Yes.
Let's see. To gimble is to make holes like a gimlet. And the wabe is the grass plot around a sundial, I suppose, said Alice, surprised at her own ingenuity. Of course it is. It's called wabe, you know, because it goes a long way before it and a long way behind it. We have an illustration of the slithy toes gyring and gimbling in the wabe. Now you can see the sundials right there.
Yes.
And a long way beyond it on each side, Alice added. Exactly so. Well then, mimsy is flimsy and miserable. That's another portmanteau for you. And a borough is a thin, shabby-looking bird with its feathers sticking out all round, something like a live mop. And then mome raths, said Alice. I'm afraid I'm giving you a great deal of trouble. Well, a rath is a sort of green pig, but mome I'm not certain about. I think it's short for from home, meaning they'd lost their way, you know. And what does outgrabe mean? Well, outgrabing is something between bellowing and whistling, with a kind of sneeze in the middle. However, you'll hear it done, maybe, down in the wood yonder, and when you've heard it, you'll be quite content. Who's been repeating all that hard stuff to you? I read it in a book, said Alice, but I had some poetry repeated to me much easier than that by Tweedle Dee, I think it was. As to poetry, you know, said Humpty Dumpty, stretching out one of his great hands. I can repeat poetry as well as other folk, if it comes to that. Oh, it needn't come to that, Alice hastily said, hoping to keep him from beginning. The piece I'm going to repeat, he went on, without noticing her remark, was written entirely for your amusement. Alice felt that, in that case, she really ought to listen to it, so she sat down and said, thank you, rather sadly. In winter, when the fields are white, I sing this song for your delight. Only I don't sing it, he added, as an explanation. I see you don't, said Alice. If you can see whether I'm singing or not, you've sharper eyes than most, Humpty Dumpty remarked severely. Alice was silent. In spring, when woods are getting green, I'll try and tell you what I mean. Thank you very much, said Alice. In summer, when the days are long, perhaps you'll understand the song. In autumn, when the leaves are brown, take pen and ink and write it down. I will if I can remember that long, said Alice. You needn't go on making remarks like that, Humpty Dumpty said. They're not sensible and they put me out. I sent a message to the fish. I told them, this is what I wish. The little fishes of the sea, they sent an answer back to me. The little fish's answer was, we cannot do it, sir, because... I'm afraid I don't quite understand, said Alice. It gets easier further on, Humpty Dumpty replied. I sent to them again to say, it will be better to obey. The fishes answered with a grin, why, what a temper you are in. I told them once, I told them twice, they would not listen to advice. I took a kettle large and new, fit for the deed I had to do. My heart went hop, my heart went thump, I filled the kettle at the pump. Then someone came to me and said, the little fishes are in bed. I said to him, I said it plain, then you must wake them up again. I said it very loud and clear, I went and shouted in his ear. Humpty Dumpty raised his voice almost to a scream as he repeated this verse, and Alice thought with a shudder, I wouldn't have been the messenger for anything. But he was very stiff and proud. He said, you needn't shout so loud. And he was very proud and stiff. He said, I'd go and wake them if I took a corkscrew from the shelf. I went to wake them up myself. And when I found the door was locked, I pulled and pushed and kicked and knocked. And when I found the door was shut, I tried to turn the handle, but there was a long pause. Is that all? Alice timidly asked. That's all, said Humpty Dumpty. Goodbye. Anyway, that's, I'm going to leave off just there. Yes, just absolute nonsense.
Yes, quite.
Yes, that was rather fun, just picking out some of the fun bits.
Yeah.
No wonder that particular poem is not as memorable as some of the other ones. It's a bit random, and it leaves off rather suddenly.
Yes.
It's no Walrus and the Carpenter.
No.
Even though it is about somebody trying to eat.
Ostensibly killing, yes.
Yeah, sentient sea creatures.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you for tuning in today. Tila and whoever else is here who isn't talking in the chat, but whose number I can see above the screen. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm sorry that I'm not going to continue on with the rest of Through the Looking Glass, but yes. Sometimes you have to listen to your body and your mind and attend to your health. So
listen to your heart.
That too. Yes, I'm sure I will come back with some Isolated Literary Society in the future, but I'm starting to think it might become something more like a special event. I will pick out a book in advance. I will advertise that it is happening. It will happen. And then the next one will happen later on down the road when I decide to do another one. It's not going to continue to be this ongoing thing, which I feel weirdly guilty about, but like I did it for like 6 months. So
you did it for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty reasonable. And some of those, I mean, Emma was really long.
Yeah.
It took like over a month.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So yes, I have been streaming more days than I haven't over the last 6 months, and I guess it's not unreasonable to take a little bit of a break. So, I'm definitely going to plan another concert next before I do another reading, I think. I don't know when. I haven't picked the when yet, but potentially, if I decide I'm up to it, I was thinking I might do one with the theme Sarah Shea and the songs she's afraid of, which and I would play a bunch of songs that I'm intimidated by. Not like scary songs, but like I've been keeping sort of a list of songs that like I would like to cover, but I'm kind of afraid to because they're either really difficult or they're just so good and iconic that I feel like I want to cover this, but like what would I possibly bring to it? And maybe I've been thinking I should do this as some sort of project, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it as like a little EP or something. I don't know. To kind of push myself. I'll give you a little tease. One of the songs is Case of You by Joni Mitchell, which is one of my favorite songs of all time. And Joni Mitchell is simply legendary and an iconic goddess of music. And trying to sing any of her songs is a bit, I don't know. I've heard people cover her songs and I'm like,
yeah,
this is nice, I guess, but it's not like, I mean, it's not like you can be better than Joni. It's like the covers aren't about being better than the original. But yeah, it's, yeah, so that's one of them. That's an example of a song that I'm afraid to cover. So I've just added another song to that list and we'll see if I can come up with a few. I might not do a show of all that kind of song because that would require a lot of prep and be scary. But I might do one where like I do one song I'm scared of and then do a couple of like easy fun songs and some originals and stuff like that. And then do one I'm afraid of and then a couple. Maybe I'll do like 3 or 4 songs I'm afraid of in a show, something like that. So I don't have to prepare too many of them. We'll see. I'll start working on one of them and see how long it takes me to get comfortable with it. Anyway, so that's an idea for the future. Go ahead and if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. You can click the bell to get notifications when I post a video or go live. I do not post videos that often, especially now that I'm going to stop the daily streams. You will not get a lot of notifications, so you don't have to worry about getting a ton of them. Or follow me on Twitter or Instagram, the Sarah Shea, both places. And I'm likely to post about these things there when they happen. So thank you for being here and watching the stream. Not sure if I'll actually post this. This one might be just special live video. I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it up for a couple of days at least for people who couldn't make it to the live thing. Yeah. Links below if you stumble across this new. I'll add links below. There aren't any there now because I just wrote, haha, what is going on? What is life? I will add some links to the page on my website, which lists all of the books that we did so far in Isolated Literary Society. My website, my store to buy my music or my audiobook that I released of original short stories. Also a link to my tips page, sarahshea.com/tips. The web is the page on my website. Times are tough. If you have a couple of bucks to spare, it's greatly appreciated. Anywho, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. I'm starving. I'm going to go eat dinner. Okay. It's brillig. It's way past brillig.
Dinner has been broiled for some time.
What?